Everybody, this is Tellman Knudso, and I'm just going to go ahead and turn my webcam off, and then I'm going to turn it back on because I know that sometimes there are some issues there. So I want to just check in with you guys. Can everyone see me, and can everyone see the opening slide of our absolutely incredible keynote presentation by the phenomenal, the amazing Ryan Levesque? Can you guys see us? Can you hear us? Ryan, say something fascinating, something really profound.
I am standing up right now, and I am drinking sparkling water. That is the absolute least profound thing I can think of. So I was trying to be ironic. And I've got swimming goggles on my head because I like to fiddle with something. So there you go.
Nice. You have swimming goggles on your head right now?
As we speak, they were sitting on my desk, and I could not resist the temptation of putting them on my head. So maybe we'll do the entire webinar.
I want to put something on my head, but I don't want to get derailed. So, all right. So it sounds like you guys can see me and hear me. So we're going to jump into this absolutely incredible training here in just a little bit. I have an official bio for you about Ryan, but I'm going to scrap that and let Ryan give you the specific facts and figures about all the amazing things he's accomplished himself. What I want to tell you is, number one, as you probably know if you've been following me longer than just the hypnosis days, if it's been longer than, say, the last 4 years or so, then you know how important email marketing and list building is to the growth of all of the different companies that I've started and how many people I've trained in how to build big lists of highly responsive people. That is the lifeblood, is the backbone, is the behind the scenes, behind the curtain infrastructure of every dime I've ever made online, of every dime I've made for the last 11 years or so. And I started hearing about Ryan about a year ago. I started getting my ears down to the ground in the internet marketing scene, even though I haven't been training internet marketing stuff for a good long while now. And I started hearing Ryan's name over and over. And a lot of you guys probably know that right now Austin, Texas is kind of an internet marketing, a blooming internet marketing hotbed. And our good friend Dave Gonzalez lives there, and Kurt Molly lives there, and Jesse Elder lives there. A lot of real smart guys live in and around Austin that I'm really good friends with. And I start hearing Ryan's name more and more. I start hearing about the survey funnel formula and the book Ask that was coming out that you probably already bought and read. And I started learning more about his methodology. I was like, wow, this is fascinating. And what I did was I got on a webinar that was just like this. I personally carve a good chunk of my week out to listen in and go to training webinars and see who's doing what and really use them to always upgrade, to optimize, to enhance my ability to grow my business and my company and learn new things, even though I've been in the game for a good long time. And what happened completely blew my mind because he gave me a new way of thinking about segmentation, a new way of thinking about how to enter a new market or a new business, and completely blew my mind. And so I started going through his training. I bought his course. I bought his software. I jumped right in and started implementing it. And the data, the results, the perspective that it gave me was extremely unexpected. What I learned about people that follow me and the people who are on my email list, which you are, was completely different than what I was expecting to learn. And that's all as a result of applying Ryan's methodology. So, I've gone into several markets over the years, and a few of them have made me a lot of money, and several of them have turned out to be a total waste because I wasn't able to pinpoint and target exactly what that market, that cross-section, that niche, that tribe really, really, really wanted, and so I wasn't able to make the business float and make it profitable. And so Ryan's technique gives you a shortcut to enter any new business or to find out so much more about your existing followers, your existing blog readers, your existing email list, even your existing Facebook or Twitter fans, wherever you have a following that you've built up or want to build one in the future. This gives you the ultimate advantage, the ultimate shortcut that will simply allow you to bypass all of the other stuff. Plus, Ryan Levesque is from New Hampshire, which makes him awesome because I'm from New Hampshire, and it just goes to show the two smartest people on the internet are absolutely from New Hampshire. So that alone Nothing else really matters. So with that said, I'm glad you guys can hear us and we're ready to rock and roll. I'm going to hop out of the video right now and we're going to move over to the presentation and we'll be ready to rock. So thanks for being here. This is going to completely change the way you look at anything. And Ryan, one of our mastermind members who's on the call right now is named Gary Jackman, and we're on our weekly mastermind call earlier this week, and he's like, Tellman, Ask should be required reading for every mastermind member, and it was just very, very funny. So high endorsements, thumbs up from everybody. Really cool work you're doing here, Ryan, and I'm looking forward to learning even more here today.
Awesome. Tellman, man, I think that goes in the Hall of Fame of probably kindest, warmest introductions I've ever gotten, so I really appreciate that. And I think there's one thing that is the big takeaway is that if you're from New Hampshire, good things happen. So,
yeah, you have such an unfair advantage, it's ridiculous.
So with that being said, thanks, my man, and I'm really excited to dive right in. Before we do dive right in, I just want to make sure that you can hear my audio okay and that you can hear what I'm saying. I think the screen is showing up just fine, so I think that's confirmed. If you would mind just in the chat, just let me know, yes, loud and clear. Awesome, thank you, Ruby, super appreciate that. And just want to make sure that you guys are here. Yes, Jody, B, Elaine, hey B, Jody, and I know we've got a ton more people who are here. Get a few more people letting me know that you can hear me loud and clear. I want to make sure that it's not just 4 or 5 of us in a room here. Yeah, I know it's a slightly tinny sound. I apologize. I have a wireless headset, and the reason for that is I am French, and so I walk and talk and use my hands even if I'm in a room by myself. So you can kind of visualize what I'm doing right now. So anyways, let's dive right in because we've got a lot to cover, and this is some really important stuff. So what I want to show you is what I consider to be slightly weird ask formula, something that I've personally used to generate well over 3 million leads, well over 200,000 customers across 23 different markets, and over $100 million in revenue. Now, before we dive right in, one of the first questions I'm always asking myself before I attend an online training presentation is this something that I can use in my life? Is what I'm about to learn something I can use in my business, yes or no? So I want to take a moment to explain who this is for. So if you're launching a new business or considering launching a new business, a new website, a new blog, a new product, or really just any new project, if you have an existing business and you've struggled to make cold traffic work, and so by cold traffic I mean if you struggle to make Facebook traffic work, Facebook ads or Google ads or any type of cold traffic, or if you're tired of having to rely on affiliates, joint ventures, and running internal launches to keep the lights on, or if you simply want a proven evergreen marketing funnel, something that you can build once to generate customers over and over and over again, set it and forget it, or if you have clients who are in any one of these situations, what I'm about to show you is what I consider to be the holy grail of online business, which is how to convert cold traffic into customers, okay, and how to do it in scale. Now, I get that this sounds great, but the big question is, well, how are you actually going to do this? Well, the answer is right here. The answer is right here. What you see in front of you is the exact process that I use today to generate, and write this number down, 52,000 email subscribers every single day using surveys and quizzes. What I mean by that is that every single day, 52,000 people across all the markets that I'm in go through one of the quizzes and surveys I've developed and become a prospect in one of the businesses that I'm involved in, which equates to about 19 million people a year. Now, whenever I show this, this becomes a bit overwhelming, and so what I want to do, because our time is limited, is go deep enough in a few key areas of this process, which you see in these 3 highlighted areas, so I can leave you with some practical step-by-step tips, things that you can begin immediately applying in your business right here today, immediately after we walk off this training presentation. Okay. Now, whenever I've done this training in the past, I always inevitably will have, and there are a few people I think that are writing in already, asking, can you get a copy of the flowchart that we just went through here? So here's what I want to do. If enough people are interested in getting access to a high-resolution version of this graphic, something that you can blow up, you can print it up, you can use it as the background on your computer, you can zoom in and study it and use it as the roadmap for your business. If enough people are interested, at the end of this call, I'll make a way available for you to do that. All I need to know is if you want a copy of this flowchart right now in the chat, say, yes, I want this. So yes, I want a copy of the flowchart. Let me know. And if enough people are interested, please, I'm going to ask Megan, my assistant on the call right now. Megan, just remind me at the end of the presentation to make sure that we make a way available. And let's see, anyone interested? Anita says yes. Tina says yes. Linda says yes, please. Greg, Andrew, Jody, Kimberly, Ron, Paul, Rob, Steven, Sandy, Lorraine, Remy, B, Carl, Dawn, Ann, Ava, Barry, Beverly, Kel, is that how you pronounce your name? Kel or Yell? Jeff, Michael, Tamara, Ken, Alejandro, Rosemary, Elaine, Fanny, Julia, Karen. Anyone else before we last call? Last call at the bar, last chance. Get your name in real quick. Anybody else? Angie, Ruby, Gary's, yes. Stephen, staff copy, please. Absolutely. Stephen, all right, going once, twice, 3 times, sold. All right, awesome, awesome. I think Megan, I think there are enough people. Let's make sure we make a way available to get this available. Okay, so going back to this, the big question: how do you find that holy grail of online marketing? Converting customers, converting cold traffic into customers, and doing it in scale. How do you do this? This is my funny homage to Muppets. You ask people what they want. But you do it in a counterintuitive, indirect way, as you're about to see. Now, the reason why I say this is anybody who's familiar, by the way, are you familiar, anybody here familiar with my book, Ask? Is anybody, I know Gary is familiar with it. Is anybody else familiar? You have a copy of it? Anybody seen it in bookstores or online? Well, if you're not familiar with it, yeah, a bunch of people saying yes. The book, out of nowhere, became the #1 best-selling book. So Alejandro says yes. Carl says just read it. Steven says yep. Jody, awesome, awesome, awesome. The book, out of nowhere, became the #1 best-selling book in the country. And when I say that, not the best-selling book in some obscure category on Amazon, like underwater basket weaving. The entire, every category, #1 book on Amazon, all categories, the entire website, the #1 book in Barnes & Noble, USA Today, Los Angeles Times, Publishers Weekly, list after list after list. And it came out of nowhere because I think the story behind how this formula was discovered and how well it's working in market after market, both for businesses very small, which I know some people on this call have small businesses, and businesses very large, is very much resonating with people. Now, there's one thing that I want to bring up right now when people see the title of this book. People think, well, you can't just ask people what they want and give it to them, right? There has to be something more to it than that. Well, the answer is there is. That's the counterintuitive and indirect way. Because whenever I bring up the idea of asking what people want, inevitably someone will bring up a quote that you may be familiar with. It's a quote that's attributed to Henry Ford, and it reads, "If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have told me faster horses." And more recently, Steve Jobs has famously said, and I'm paraphrasing, "Focus groups are worthless. People don't know what they want until they've seen it." And the reason why these quotes ring true for so many people is because they are true. To find out what people really want, not what they say they want, not what they think they want, but what they really want to buy, requires asking the right questions at the right time to the right people. And those questions are counterintuitive. And that's the reason why, whenever I bring up the fact that surveys are responsible for the results that I just mentioned to you, most people say, I've tried surveys and I haven't gotten those results. And the reason for that is simple. Most marketers do surveys completely wrong. Okay? I wanted to bring that up because it's going to set the stage for what we're about to talk about together here today. Using surveys in the right way, in a way that gets results, in a way that gets results to the tune of over $100 million, and something that you can use starting right here today in your life and in your business. But before we dive right in and get into the meat and potatoes of what we're going to be covering today, the second question I'm always asking myself whenever I attend an online training presentation, after I've decided that is this something I can use in my business, is should I pay attention to the guy or girl delivering this training? Is this someone that I should pay attention to? So I think it's only fair that I take just a brief moment to tell you a little bit about who I am. So my name is Ryan Levesque. Yes, it's a crazy French name. The S is silent. Ryan Levesque. And for many years, people have known me as a funnel specialist. And the reason for that is I was secretly the person that big companies would bring through the back door to build their online marketing funnels. And the world did not know I existed. I was a ghost. I would come in the back door and build these machines to the tune of multiple millions of dollars a year, and did this for a small number of companies. But the results, again, were substantial. Over 3 million leads, over 200,000 customers, 23 different markets in which this is working, $100 million in revenue. And some of those companies that I mentioned include the #1 golf instruction site in the world, the #1 tennis instruction site in the world, the #2 satellite TV provider in the United States, the #3 business funding provider in the United States. And by the way, these are all companies that everybody on this call would be familiar with the names. The #1 alkaline health company in the UK and Australia, the #1 dog training property online, the #4 weight loss supplement company in the world, the former #1 fitness instruction company on ClickBank, and the list goes on and on and on, all the way to 9-figure companies like Agora, the 9-figure direct response company, as well as work with infomercial giants Guthy-Ranker on the brand Proactive, which most people would be familiar with. And when people hear funnel specialists, what I mean by that is people pay for a long time extremely large sums of money to me up front, along with an ongoing retainer plus a royalty on the gross sales generated from our work together. So in other words, the client relationships that I had worked like a partnership. I had to get paid anywhere from $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 up front, and an ongoing royalty anywhere from a few $1,000s a month to tens of thousands of dollars a month every single month. In addition to that, I have a high-level private consulting practice consisting of 20 business owners and CEOs who pay $5,000 a month to get access to a few minutes of my time every single month. That consulting practice has been fully booked up for the last 18 months, and there's a wait list of over 100 people who are waiting to get into that. Now, the reason why I say this, and the reason why this is true, is because the stuff I'm about to show you works. And here are a few examples. So this is just one marketing funnel, one business in one market, one of 6 funnels in this particular market, in which last year we generated just under $9 million, in gross revenue, and just over $6 million in profit. Okay? Now, when people see these numbers, I know there's some people who say, well, how does this apply to me? My business isn't doing tens of millions of dollars a year. Is this something that I can use for me? Well, let's go through a few more examples. Here's another example. A large company who was doing decent before we started working together, generating about 1,500 email subscribers every single day. And after we applied what I'm about to show you, we were able to grow that to now 14,000 email subscribers every single day. One funnel, one market. Think about those numbers. 14,000 people every single day, more than the population of the town in New Hampshire that I grew up, are entering their email address and going through this process, and they're doing it on cold traffic, paid advertising, meaning that this is profitable. As you can see here, we're generating 150% return on ad spend, ROAS. Basically what that means is every dollar that we put in, $1.50 comes out. Another example. Here's a smaller business in which we are applying what you're about to discover. Last year, this business did about $125,000, and in the first month of this year, we did $28,000 in revenue. This slide needs to be updated a little bit, and we're averaging about $25,000 to $30,000 a month in revenue, which represents a 3x increase. We literally tripled the size of this business simply by using what I'm about to discover. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, this is great, but these are all established businesses. How does this work for me? How does this work for you if you are just getting your business off the ground, or you're just thinking about starting a new website, starting a new business? Here's another example. A business in which we applied what you're about to discover, where we took from nothing to 6 figures in just 12 short months, over $11,000 a month, starting from scratch. This is a market in which we had no presence, no product, no website, no connections, no relationship, but we followed the process I'm about to show you. Now, what's interesting about all this is that most people enter the world of consulting or agency work, whatever you want to describe it as a stepping stone to starting their own business. I actually did things in reverse. So my background is simple. I grew up blue collar in New Hampshire, first person in my family ever to go to college. My dad is a shipping clerk. My mom cuts hair for a living. And for me to go to college, it was a big deal, but it was an even bigger deal when I was able to get into an Ivy League school. And I got into Brown University, where I studied East Asian Studies and neuroscience. I was fascinated with the human mind. There, I realized at Brown that there's a difference between what I call smart and really smart. My friend and roommate, Charles, whom I wrote about in my book, he's really smart. He went on all the way and is now a neurologist at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. So he studied neuroscience with me. He's super smart, and I'm the dumb guy who could not make it all the way. But I was still really fascinated in the brain. So after college, I decided to try my hand on Wall Street, work for the investment bank Goldman Sachs, became really interested in the psychology of investing and the psychology of markets. At the same time, I was also really fascinated in Chinese culture, East Asian studies. And I spent about 5 years with my wife living and working in Asia, which was my last real job for the company AIG, the insurance company, opening up sales offices around the country, when I decided, you know what, I don't want to do this. I don't want to work for another company for the rest of my life. I want to take my destiny in my own hands. And in 2008, in the wake of the world financial crisis, I don't know if you remember this, but the company I was working for, AIG, I walked into my office one day, and the Wall Street Journal Asia edition said, AIG to file for bankruptcy. That was the headline. I called up my wife, told her, I think, honey, today's the day. And I turned in my resignation letter to my boss and gave my 2 weeks notice, walked away, and haven't looked back since. And in my first real business, using exactly what I'm about to show you, the exact process I'm going to walk you through today, I was able to take that first business from nothing to $25,000 a month within 18 months. You can see the screenshot here, starting in November of 2008. And today, run a $5 million a year business working from home, and a very profitable business at that. And you can see the Business Insider article that was written about my story not too long ago. Now, the reason why I tell you all this is not to brag. I don't need to brag. I tell you this so you can be confident in A, the person who is delivering about what you're about to get access to, and B, the methodology, the formula that I'm about to give you. To know that it's something that's been tested. It's something that's been battle tested, stress tested, in markets ranging from golf instruction to dentistry to satellite television, in businesses big and small, on traffic ranging from Google AdWords to Facebook traffic to organic traffic to email traffic to banner advertising, for blogs, for websites. The list goes on and on. Okay? So one of the biggest questions that I know people ask is, but will this work for me? And as you're about to discover in a few minutes how this is working for literally thousands of people around the world. So that being said, I'm going to take a sip of water, leave you with one last thought, and we're going to dive right in. Okay? The thought is this: simplicity is powerful. I want you to think about that. In a world where so often we get caught up in the complexity of technology, the complexity of strategies, things seem to be more difficult than they need to be. Roadblocks, hurdles, things that hold us back. Oftentimes, the most profound discoveries in history, the most profound things in business are often the most elegant, the most simple. Simplicity is powerful. With that being said, I want to start by sharing with you the 3 biggest mistakes that I see with the businesses I work with and the businesses and aspiring business owners I speak to on a weekly basis. And the first mistake that I see, the problem, is the traffic that they are trying to go after is too broad. Now, let me give you an example. I want you to imagine for a moment that you are a marketer online and you are helping a local business. In this case, let's pretend that the local business is a local plumber. Let's pretend the plumber operates in Tellman in my old home state of New Hampshire. Let's pretend that this plumber is in Concord, New Hampshire, state capital. And if the plumber were to advertise on a keyword like local plumber Concord, New Hampshire to fix leaky toilet, for example, I think all of us here on this call, we could write a really compelling advertisement very easily, very quickly, right? I mean, we could just write it right now. Maybe it would say something like, well, what might it say? Maybe it would say something like, looking for a plumber, have a leaky toilet in Concord, New Hampshire? Call us today at 1-603, whatever the phone number is, right? Pretty straightforward. But what's the problem with that? The problem is that how many people are actually going online to Google every single day and typing in local plumber to fix leaky toilet, Concord, New Hampshire? Maybe there are like 3 people a month that are actually typing that in. So the question is, how do you reach more people? How do you write a compelling advertisement for someone who might be searching a keyword that gets 30,000 or 300,000 searches every single month? Maybe something like plumbing. Or what about home improvement that probably gets 3 million searches every single month? Or what about forget Google? Let's just pretend Google doesn't exist. What about trying to write an ad or develop an ad and a landing page and a marketing funnel on the website DIY.com? Or what about Yahoo.com on the homepage of Yahoo itself? The answer is you can't do it successfully unless you use what I'm about to show you. And I realized this myself in one of the businesses that I entered in the how to improve your memory space. So fun fact about Ryan, I have a business, still exists today. It's called Rocket Memory. Rocket like the rocket ship, Rocket Memory. You can actually look it up today. It still exists to this very day. And it's a business that leverages my Ivy League background in neuroscience, in which we teach a series of courses that help people improve your memory. Okay? And we have courses that range from how to remember names and faces to how to memorize biblical scripture to memory techniques that are useful for test-taking environments, so on and so forth. And when I first went into this market, this is years ago, when I first went into this market, I completely struggled. Completely struggled. And the reason was interesting. You see, in the memory improvement market, all the volume of traffic is available on keywords like improve memory, how to improve memory, memory improvement. But the challenge is the people searching for those keywords, like improve memory, ranges from everyone from the 18-year-old college kid who's looking for test-taking tips all the way through the 65-year-old man who's concerned about mental decline and everybody in between. And so the question is, how do you write an ad? How do you build a landing page on your website that speaks to the entire spectrum of people all at once when the keyword is the same no matter who's searching for it, but the person behind that keyword represents an entire spectrum of people? The answer is you can't unless you use what I'm about to show you. Which leads me to the second problem that I run into with businesses that I speak to, and that's not knowing why their customers don't buy. Okay, show of hands, and actually let's go to the GoToWebinar chat. So head over to the chat. I've got a quick quiz, quick question for you, and I'm just curious to know what your answer is on this. And the question is, when it comes to what we call sales conversion rate, so the percent of people who land on your website who convert into buyers, who become customers, what is the generally accepted percent of people who go from website visitor to customer, website visitor to buyer? What's the generally accepted percent of people who do this? And I'm just curious. So what's the percent of people who convert into customers off cold traffic who land on your website? And just put your answer in the chat. I'll give you a moment. We'll do about, wait for about 20, 25 people to put their answers in. And I'm just going to read some of them off. I'm genuinely curious to know what you think the answer is. And I'm going to illustrate an important point. I'm just curious. And there's, by the way, don't feel there's only, there's only right answers here. There's nothing to worry about. Okay, great, awesome. All right, so Ann says 1%. We got less than 1%, 1%, 2 to 3, 3%, 2%, 10%, 1%, 2.5%, 2%, 1, 5, 5, 2, 5, less than 1. Awesome, awesome. Hey, Tellman, man, you didn't worry me that we've got a smart crowd here.
Yeah, well, we're trying our best. We're trying our best. We have some good folks on the line. It's true.
Maybe I need to make this a little bit more advanced because
way more advanced. Yeah. First of all, teach the rest of the webinar in Latin for starters.
I can't do Latin, but we can do Chinese.
Oh, good. Mandarin?
所以呢，我们的解释是100%对的，好吗？可以吗？有一些会中文的人吗？ Just ask if anyone who speaks Chinese. French, je parle un petit peu, mais je ne parle bien. Okay.
Croissant rouge.
And that's it. That's it. Awesome. Awesome. No way. 你好. 你好, Jeff. 你好. Awesome. Great. Great. So, great answers, by the way. Really, really great answers. And in case you're wondering, well, what is the real answer? The generally accepted answer in terms of the percent of people who land on your website who convert into customers off of cold traffic, meaning they're not familiar with you already before, is 1%. 1% is basically you're kind of in the neighborhood. Now, there may be a range there, but 1% is kind of the starting point. Now, if you're doing 2%, then you're doing really well. If you're doing 5%, like some people said, you're probably not on this webinar right now. You're probably hanging out on a beach somewhere and just enjoying life. And if you're doing something like 10%, which I think 1 or 2 people mentioned, then you're shopping for which island in the Caribbean you're going to be purchasing, and you're on your private yacht because you are printing money. But I want you to think about that another way. Even if you're absolutely doing phenomenally, what that means is best case scenario, Anywhere from 90 to 95% of everybody who lands on your website, all the traffic, all the time, all the money, all the energy that you spend to get people to your website is a complete waste of time. Think about that. Think about doing something where 90 to 95% of all your effort is just a waste. See, in our industry, that 1% number is accepted. And for me, this bugs the heck out of me. It bothers me a ton because I see this waste, and I see the real secret to taking your business to the next level, to finally cracking the nut of having success online, is knowing how to take a portion of that 90% and transforming those people into customers. That's something that I'm going to show you in just a few minutes. Which leads us to the third problem. The third problem that people run into when I speak to business owners, which is not knowing what else to sell your customers. So I've got another question for you, okay? You did a great job, and I've got high expectations on this one, right? I know you're going to show me how smart you are. Someone is going to surprise us. Someone is going to come in here and is going to give the answer I have in mind for the question I'm about to ask. I have a really good feeling about this, okay? So my question is this. When I say the phrase, the money is in the blank, I want you to tell me what comes to mind. Now, this is in the context of our conversation right now. The money is in the blank. What comes to mind? What's the answer? What do you think the answer Ryan is looking for here based on where this conversation is going? The money is in the blank. And I'll give you a moment to put your answer in the GoToWebinar chat. I'll read through a few answers, and whoever gets this right first gets a gold star from Ryan. Tellman, what's your...
You got some Jeopardy music?
I could. You do not want to hear me sing. I'm telling you this right now. And my wife, who's in the office next door, also does not want to hear me sing. So I might get slapped. All right, awesome. All right, so we got some really good answers here. Man, you guys are awesome. Like, this is, I just got to say something right now. I love coming on and delivering a training presentation when people are just as energized as I am, just as ready to learn, just as ready to have an impact in their business. It jazzes me up, gives me energy, and so I just want to give you props because you guys are doing phenomenally well on these questions. So let's go through a few of these. Okay, so answers are list, bag, list, message, list, follow-up, list, bank, cute, bank or list if you're smart, sale, follow-up, bank, list, wallet, follow-up, question, funnel, follow-up, keywords, bank, customer list, solution, follow-up, list, and two people, not one, so I was right, two people actually totally surprised me, got the answer I was looking for. So the answer that I was looking for is what Ron and Jody both had to say, which is the money is in the back end. Now, anyone who said list, money in the list, actually we're saying the same thing. What we're really saying is that the money is not in the first thing that you sell your customers. The money is in the stuff that you sell after that. And you see so few business owners and marketers actually get this. They're so fixated on trying to make a profit on the first thing that they sell that they don't realize that the real opportunity to make money and make big money is not by selling that first thing, but by strategically setting up the next sale in your business. And so few people get this right. I'll illustrate an example, and I've got another question to illustrate this point. So go back to the chat here, and we'll do this one fast. Whoever gets this one first fast gets the gold star from Ryan. So, okay, ready? Fingers ready? Ready? You got your Jeopardy buzzer, thumb on the buzzer? When you walk into a bar, what is the first thing that they put in front of you? Go. First thing that they put in front of you when you walk into a bar. First thing, got it. Ruby got it. The answer is peanuts. Salty food. They lose money on those peanuts. Those peanuts aren't free. They're not downloadable. They're not the free Kindle version of the peanuts. They're losing money on those peanuts, right? But they're putting those peanuts in front of you. Why? So that you're thirsty as heck and will down drink after drink after drink. The money is in the back end. It's all about how your first sale strategically sets up the next sale. Now, the reason why so few businesses do this and do this well and do this right is because it's tricky unless you have a formula, unless you use what I'm about to show you. And that formula, the solution to everything that we just talked about and more, is this right here. It's all right here. And because our time is limited, and because I want to go through some actual case studies and examples so that you can see this and bring this to life, what I want to do is focus on 3 of the areas that you see here in these red boxes, 1, 2, 3, which represents 3 high leverage areas of this process that you begin immediately applying in your business minutes from this very moment. And the reason why this process has come to be known as the survey funnel process is because what we're going to be talking about today are 3 of the surveys that you're going to be conducting in your market as titled 1, 2, 3, which corresponds to the 3 challenges that we just discussed. Now, starting with that first challenge or problem of traffic being too broad, we're going to begin by talking about the first survey we're going to be talking about today, which is the micro-commitment bucket survey. Okay? Write that down. Micro-commitment bucket survey. Okay? So what is the micro-commitment bucket survey, and how does it work? Well, let's do an example. I mentioned earlier that I have a business in the memory improvement space. It's called Rocket Memory. Now, what you see in front of you here is a landing page in that business. Now, as I mentioned, when we first went into this market, I struggled. In fact, as you'll see in a moment, I struggled to the point that I was like this close from giving up, really. I had invested a lot of money, what was a lot of money for me at the time, thousands of dollars, and just completely losing money. And I started by looking at what everybody else was doing in the marketplace. And everybody else in this market was basically giving away what we call, some people in the industry call, a lead magnet, right? And how many times have you seen that? You go to a website and it's a free report, a free doohickey, 10 free ways to improve your memory. Enter your name and email here, right? Well, I did that, just like so many people who have gone down that path. And I did it for a simple reason. I assumed, well, everybody else is doing this, so this might work. And I struggled. I could not make it work. And I realized that that was not going to get me where I needed to go. So I took a step back and I reflected. I thought. I said, well, this doesn't make any sense. What would I do if I were just having a one-to-one conversation with someone who wanted to improve their memory? Because when I was back at Brown, I actually taught a section of neuroscience for 2 years. And one of the things that I became famous for on campus, and by famous I mean like famous with like 100 people, famous for is teaching memory techniques. And people would come up to me and they'd say, Ryan, I hear you help people with this whole memory thing. Can you help me? There's so much information in neuro, and I can't remember it, all of it. And the absolute last thing that I would do is respond to that person by saying, absolutely. In fact, I've got the top 10 memory tips on the planet. If you tell me your name and email and write it down on this clipboard here, I will hand you this free report that tells you how to improve your memory with these 10 free tips. I mean, can you imagine saying that to someone in person? You either get slapped, their eyes would go as big as saucers looking at you like, what the heck's wrong with this person, right? But for some reason, that's how we communicate with people online. They come to your website and it's, here's why I'm the best. I'm standing on my tippy toes and I'm going to yell louder than the guy next to me. And here's why my memory tips are better than yours. He's got 10 tips. I've got 11 tips. 7-minute abs, 6-minute abs, right? How many times does that happen? That's not how we communicate. This is how we communicate. If someone came up to me on campus and said, Ryan, I need help with my memory. Is this something you can help me with? Here's how I would respond. You're absolutely right. This is something I've been helping people with for a very long time. But here's the thing. When it comes to memory, everybody is in a slightly different situation. And before I can tell you if I can honestly help you or not, I really need to know a little bit more about what you're struggling with, what you're trying to accomplish, what situation you're in right now. Do you have a moment to tell me a little bit about yourself and answer a few questions? And then from there, I proceed by asking a few simple questions to identify the challenge that this person's struggling with, identify their situation. And then with that information, I would prescribe a customized plan for them. So my hypothesis was, what if I took this approach online? What if I started asking people the same types of questions I would ask in person to identify what they wanted and then prescribe a custom solution? So that's exactly what we did. Now, initially, when I first entered into this market, this is my AdWords account. My email opt-in rate, the percent of people who gave me their email address when they reached my site or this specific page, 5%. Now, 5%, is that good or is that bad? Come on, tell me, is that good or is that bad? 5%, is that good or is that bad? Trick question, it's neither. It's terrible. 5% email opt-in rate is absolutely terrible. And you can see what I was actually paying for an email subscriber. I was paying $12.89, almost $13 just to get someone to give me their email address. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine walking around the mall and saying, hey, will you give me your email address? No. I'll pay you $5. No. I'll pay you $7. No. I'll pay you $10. No. I'll pay you $13. Just tell me your email address. Yes. That's what I was paying. $13. This business model would not work with those numbers. That was the first version. That was the me standing on my tippy toes telling people, here's why my memory tips are better than anybody else's, doing what everybody else in the marketplace was doing. But when I made that shift, when I changed things around, when I put a video that said, time out a second, I don't know if I can help you out, but if you take a few moments to tell me a little bit about your situation, then I'll be able to point you in the right direction and give you a customized plan based on your unique circumstances. When I did that, this is what happened overnight. No change to the site design, just a change in that messaging. I went from $13 a lead to under $5 a lead, and from 5% to 12.5% overnight. And for you math geeks doing the math at home, that meant that I dropped my cost per lead by 61% and increased my opt-in rate by 143%. But the good news is, it gets even better. See, over time, my bucket survey concept evolved to include something that I describe as micro commitments. See, I went back and I dug back to my days as a student of neuroscience and dug into the research. And I looked at the research and the psychology of change, commitment. And what I realized is that whenever we ask someone to do anything in life, whether it's a positive change or a negative change, the brain perceives that change as a threat. And I thought, well, whenever we ask someone to do something online, the brain must perceive that to be a threat as well. Now, an extreme example might be landing on a scary website for the first time where the first question that you're asked is, can I have your name, email, bank account number, routing number. Oh, and by the way, just what's your social security number again? If you landed on a site like that, what would your reaction be? You'd leave in a heartbeat, right? You just get out of there. You would know that it was some phishing scam trying to steal your information. Your brain would immediately know, ding, 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 threat. Well, what happens when we ask people for sensitive information, even something as simple as their name and email address in the first point of contact, it actually fires off those same threat warning bells as well. In fact, it actually has been shown to elicit a part of the brain known as the amygdala, which is housed in the limbic system, which is where the fight or flight response exists. And so when you ask for too much information too fast before the relationship is ready, you fire off those warning bells, and what happens when someone feels threatened? Fight or flight kicks in, which is online bouncing from your website, not opting in, not providing their email address, or providing a fake email address, which we all have, right? We all have a name that we like to put in when we don't want to give our real name, right? And we all have that fake email address that we tend to put in. Don't deny it. We all got it. I've got one. Or we have that secondary, AOL address that we haven't checked in 15 years where, oh, I'll just sign up on my AOL address or my Hotmail address or whatever it is that you might use, right? You all got it. So over time, I thought, well, how can we improve this further? Well, it turns out when it comes to that threat response, there's a way you can actually hack it. You can hack that fight or flight response. And here's the trick. The trick is that you make the size of the step that you're asking someone to take so small, it does not elicit the fight or flight response at all. You actually flow beneath the radar. You fly beneath the radar. You don't elicit that response. So I thought, well, what if we use this theory of micro-commitments online? And so over time, I started experimenting with putting a simple video. And instead of asking for name and email, taking people down a simple micro-commitment, multiple-choice survey, one question at a time, that culminated into the request for email. And I gave you an example from another market just as a point of reference. Now, when I did this, I was able to take our cost per lead from $4.97 or $5 a lead and a 12.5% opt-in rate overnight, $3 a lead and almost 20% opt-in rate. Now, if you're doing the math at home from where we started, I was able to decrease our cost per lead by 76% and increase our opt-in rate by 271%. Now, I know if you're hearing those numbers, you might be thinking, well, what does that actually mean? Like, what does that, really mean to your business? Well, think about it like this. I want you to pretend for a moment that right now, every email address that you generate in your business that you're bringing into your opt-in list, your email list, is costing you $1. And I want you to imagine what would happen if you woke up tomorrow, wiped your eyes, looked at your computer screen, and that number went from $1 to 24 cents. What would that do for your business? The good news is it gets even better. When you solve the second problem of not knowing why your non-buyers don't buy. So one of the things that I like to do is anytime that I sell something, and this is where the second survey is going to come in, something known as the Do You Hate Me survey. Okay, so write this one down. You've already written micro commitment bucket survey down. Now you want to write down Do You Hate Me survey. Okay? You got that written down? All right, cool. So what is the Do You Hate Me survey? The Do You Hate Me survey is simple. You see, every time that I try to sell something, usually I will try to put together the absolute best offer that I can make at some point. So if people don't buy right away, I might sweeten the offer with bonuses, and usually the thing that I like to do is something called lowering the buying threshold, which basically is a fancy way of saying I like to give people a trial, a $1 trial, a free just pay shipping, try it for 30 days without paying anything. Basically, the lowest threshold offer that I can make. And if after I've made that offer, and oftentimes it involves something free, they still haven't purchased from me, I'll send out a survey. And the survey is, do you hate me? Now, it's gotten that name because of a subject line that I like to use that gets people's attention. Basically, what we're doing here is identifying why people haven't bought. You're identifying what's the reason why you decided not to invest in this program, this product, the thing I was trying to sell you. I'm going to give you an example in just a moment. By the way, get your pen and paper ready because we're going to be going through some actual word-for-word copy that you'll be able to use in your business. Now, you might be saying, well, do you hate me is a little bit too strong for my market. Well, that's the point. You want to ruffle some feathers. You want to get people's attention when you're sending out the survey. Now, if it's still too strong for you, well, you can use language like, was it something I said? Did I do something wrong? There are alternatives that are a little bit less polarizing than do you hate me, but the fact remains that you want to polarize people. You want to get people's attention. Okay, so do you hate me survey is, I'm sorry I didn't advance the slide. Do you hate me survey is the second survey we're going to be talking about today. Now I want to go through an example and then I'm going to go through an actual case study of the financial impact that this can have on your business when you add this survey to what you're doing in your marketing. Okay, so here's an example. Subject line, do you hate me? Clearly you can see we're sending this on the 11th day of our autoresponder sequence. So get ready to take some notes on this because I'm going to read through this fast, and I know that for some people the screen's a little too blurry to actually copy this down. So language goes like this. Hey, it's Ryan here, and I need your help real quick. But first, I need to ask you a question. Do you hate me? And I'll put the smiley face in there with the little wing so they know that I'm just talking tongue-in-cheek. And I'm asking because the other day I gave you the chance to try the XYZ program for free, but for some reason you passed, and that's perfectly fine, but it did strike me as a little bit weird, and it did make me wonder, is it because of me? Was it something I said? Something I didn't say? Or in other words, do you hate me? And I know it gets cut off here, but it goes on to say, if you could do me a favor and just click on the link below and tell me what's the #1 reason why you decided not to invest in the XYZ program, it would mean the absolute world to me. Thanks so much, all my best, Ryan. Okay? Simple email, simple survey. You're asking an open-ended question, why didn't you buy? What's the big deal? Let's go through an example. So this is another market outside the memory market. It's a client business in which we use Aweber. And we sent this email out to 21,669 people. Got about 7,500 people to open, 2,000 people to click, and of those 2,000 people, just over 1,000 people to fill out the survey. Now, when we did this, we were shocked because we identified 5 things that we completely missed the mark on. 4 of these things had to do with our languaging in the sales process, just objections that we did not do a good job of overcoming. And when we saw what people were saying, we had to slap ourselves on the forehead and say, how did we miss this? And there's a 5th thing that was really interesting. The 5th thing was there was a certain religious group that kept writing to us saying that they would have purchased had they not unplugged for the weekend and been away and not in front of the computer. It was a certain religious group. It was a holy holiday where they had unplugged, stepped away, and wrote to us saying, if I would only have known, if you would have done this next week, I would have been really interested in this. And we were shocked at the number of people that we heard from. So then we said, okay, well, let's do this. We don't want to unfairly discriminate against an unintentionally religious group. So let's do this. Let's reopen the same offer for another 48 hours, and let's do a webinar where we answer these 4 big objections that we did not do a good job of overcoming. So we ran the webinar, opened up the offer, same offer for another 48 hours, and here's the result. Remember these numbers. 21,000 emails sent, 7,500 opens, 2,000 clicks, 1,000 survey responses, and 445 sales. 445 sales, which represented an additional $19,000 in revenue. Now, to look at these numbers in context, and I'll explain how that compares to what we sold initially in just a moment, but just so you can appreciate this, 21,000 non-buyers, 7,500 people opened, 2,000 people clicked on the original email, 1,000 people filled out the survey, 445 people bought when we reopened the offer with the webinar for 48 hours, which represented an additional 2% of non-buyers in our market who bought. Now, remember we talked about at the beginning of this training, the secret to taking your business to the next level is finding a way to monetize, to convert that 90 to 95% of traffic that otherwise goes to waste, all the time, effort, and energy that you spend to generate that traffic. The key is to convert a portion of that traffic into paid customers. Well, here's how you do it. This is one way. This is one way that you do it, 1-2% at a time. Now, just to give some context around what this meant as far as the overall promotion starting with the beginning, before we ran the Do You Hate Me survey. So the number of buyers that we had before, 1,238, which meant that this survey alone, and this simple little technique that I just mentioned, running the Do You Hate Me survey, reopening, and running the webinar, generated an increase in 36%. 36%, simply by sending a simple little survey out to your market. But the good news is it gets even better. When you solve that third problem that we talked about, which is not knowing what else to sell your customers after that first sale, after the first thing that you sell. And here, the solution is the third survey that we're going to be covering today in today's training, which is the Prospect Pivot Survey. Prospect Pivot Survey. What is the Pivot Survey? Well, it goes like this. After you run that Do You Hate Me survey and you uncover all these objections, what's going to happen is you're going to find that there are some people who say, the reason why I didn't buy is because blank. And it's going to be because the product that you introduced, the offer that you made, was just not the right fit. Sometimes you miss the mark. It's not the right thing. You misdiagnosed someone when they came into your world. Someone answered a question and it's not the right thing to introduce them to. For some people, they can't afford the thing that you've sold. For other people, they actually want to pay 10 or 100 times more, and they want the white glove version of it. They don't want to buy a course that you sell. They want to pay you personally to implement for them. Okay? All sorts of different reasons. Once you take note of what those reasons are, and you've acknowledged that, okay, the first thing that I tried to sell you is not a fit, and I totally get that, well, most people at this point, they either give up or they just finger in the wind and try to guess what's the next thing to sell. This is where the Pivot Survey comes in. The Pivot Survey is like those choose your own adventure books that we are all familiar with, or most of us are familiar with, from when we were kids, right? You're reading, you're reading, you're reading, and then you get to that fork in the road. All right, we've got three options here. You can, A, continue climbing up the mountain, B, cross the river and then take the raft downstream, or C, turn around and start back at the beginning. Which of the following would you like to try? And there's a page number for each one. The Pivot Survey is where we introduce the Choose Your Own Adventure. The Pivot Survey looks like this. Here's an example. And this, by the way, is in another market to vary things up. And by the way, if you want to take some notes down on some copies, this is a good time to do this. So quickly. I'm like the brain surgeon who comes in, does his one piece, saves the guy's life, and then moves on to the next one. There are maybe 3 people in the world who could do it, and I am one of them. So the big question is this. What would you like me to talk about next? How to get more clients, how to raise your rates, or how to productize your services? click on the option below that best describes what you need the most help with, and we'll continue down that path starting minutes from this very moment. Again, you might be wondering, well, what's the big deal? How does the pivot survey make a big impact in your business? The result in the example that we just went through is as follows. So remember, initially in that campaign that I just mentioned, where we had the religious group that we completely did not think about, we sold 1,238 copies of the product initially. Added an additional 445 sales from the Do You Hate Me survey, which represented just under 1,700 buyers. And then when we added the pivot survey, very interesting, we actually sold an additional 217 people into one of the products that we sell. In other words, we brought an additional 200 plus people who were non-buyers, that 90%, and transformed them into customers. On a revenue impact, we initially did about $53,000 in revenue, picked up an additional $19,000 in revenue from the Do You Hate Me survey, and when we added the pivot survey to the mix, another $8,000 in revenue, which represented $27,000 in additional revenue, which means we were able to increase the size of this campaign and this business by 52%, simply by asking the right questions at the right time to the right people. And these are just two examples. Show of hands, who would like to grow your business by 50% simply by asking the right questions at the right time? To put it into context, this would be like generating $100,000 in income today and growing your business to $150,000 tomorrow. Or if you make $200,000 today, growing your business to $300,000 simply by asking the right questions. And by the way, this doesn't even include the pivot survey to buyers. So people who bought the initial product being exposed to a different pivot survey, which is actually where the real money is. So like I said, this stuff is simple, right? Simple gets results. 3 million leads, 200,000 customers, 23 different markets, $100 million in revenue using the 3 techniques we covered today: the micro-commitment bucket survey, the Do You Hate Me survey, the prospect pivot survey, which again are represented by these 3 boxes here in the context of the entire process, which is lined up right here. Now, if you're like most people, you might be wondering, okay, well, this is great, but how does this all fit together? Like, for example, how do you figure out what questions to actually ask in that micro-commitment bucket survey? And how do you get people to actually take that survey in the first place? And like, what buckets do you actually funnel people into? How do you decide how to focus on certain buckets and ignore other buckets? And that micro-commitment, the prospect pivot survey and the Do You Hate Me survey work great, but not because they exist in a vacuum, but because they exist in the context of everything that happens before. And that micro-commitment bucket survey, after someone takes the survey, what next? After they go through, how do you sell them? How do you transition from the results of their survey to what it is that you're actually going to sell people? And after you sell them that first product, we all know that the money is in the blank, the back end. How do you strategically set up that first product so that it builds demand for the second and third product that you're going to sell, where you maximize your profit, where the real money is in? Well, what you see in front of you here is what's come to be known as the survey funnel formula. The entire formula that I've used in market after market and how we generate 52,000 email subscribers every single day across all the markets that we're in using surveys and quizzes. Now, what I want to do now is walk you through the 6 steps to set up this formula in your business so you can replicate the same process yourself. Now, whenever we enter a new market, whenever I kick off a new project, we start with this same 6-week process. And it looks like this. In week 1, we do something called the deep dive pre-survey. This is the survey that is done before any of the surveys that we talked about. This is where we run a series of very specific open-ended questions and analyze the data in a very specific way to identify what it is that we're actually going to focus on. This is how we figure out what questions we're going to ask, what buckets are worth focusing on, and which buckets of people, which segments of your market you actually want to ignore. It all comes down to how they answer questions in this deep dive pre-survey. And the second week is where we design and build that micro commitment bucket survey, which is that one question at a time survey that we talked about that allows you to hack the fight or flight response. Then in the third week is where we design and build that prospect discovery landing page. This is where we actually build the piece of content that people are going to see before they take the survey, which inspires them and makes them insanely curious to take that quiz themselves. Then in week 4 is where we build out the same visit sale. This is what happens after they take the survey. This is where we're first selling people. They go through that micro commitment bucket survey, they answer the multiple choice questions, and this is where we diagnose and prescribe. This is where we're prescribing their unique specific solution based on the results of their survey. Then in week 5 is where we build that profit maximization upsell sequence. So this is where we're doing the money is in the back end piece. This is how we're selling the second thing where you make your profit, and it's positioned in such a way that the first sale tees up every sale we make thereafter. And then last but not least, in week 6 is where we actually build out the prospect and customer autoresponder email sequence. This is where we have a very distinct set of emails that we write that lead people to the surveys that we talked about, as well as surveys that we have not talked about. Now, the reason why I bring all this up is, and why I want to show you what this process looks like, is because about a year ago, about 15 months ago, the world did not know that this process existed. Like I said, I was a ghost. I was a ghost who would come through the back door. I was the secret weapon that businesses would use when they wanted to massively grow their business. I would come in, do my process, come out, and get results. But about a year ago, I attended a mastermind. And at the mastermind, I told people that I had a problem. My problem was simple. The demand for what I did far outstripped my ability to deliver it. I needed to clone myself. I needed to clone myself. And I said I was radically expanding my team, hiring a bunch of people to help me execute this process for business after business. And at the mastermind, I said, my challenge is this. I need to train these people up as quickly as possible so they can become masters of this process and learn it for themselves and execute it on their own as quickly as possible. So here's my idea. My idea is I'm going to take people through, take these new employees through an entire process of building one of these funnels from start to finish. My entire 6-week process that I've used over and over and over again. They're going to sit over my shoulder. They're going to hear me explain every nuanced psychological decision that I make, why I choose this word over that word, how I design the exact questions that I'm asking, what questions that we include in the deep dive survey, analyzing the actual results so that they can learn the process so well that they can go off and do it themselves. And I said, my idea is I'm going to take an actual real funnel and build it from start to finish right before people's very eyes. And I said, what do you guys think of this idea? And everybody in the room universally said, I think that's exactly the way you should go, Ryan. And then, just as we're about to finish, one man in the back of the room raises his hand very quietly and says, you know, Ryan, is there any way that you might be open to letting a few people outside your company see how this process works? And when he said that, my original initial reaction was, no, this is my secret sauce. This is what has been responsible for generating all the wealth that I've generated for my family. This is my secret process. This is my secret family recipe. And so my initial reaction was no. But then one by one in that room, in the U-shaped tables, every single person raised their hand and said, you know, Ryan, if you would be willing to let me in as well, I would love to be part of this. And so I caved. I caved in and I said, all right, I'll do an experiment. In addition to my new employees, I'll let you join in on this training and see exactly how this works, okay? See exactly how this works. And we'll do this once, and that's it. And people went through that, and the reaction was universally the same. They were blown away. People came up to me and said, Ryan, I finally understand how you have a virtually 100% success rate entering market after market after market. Your process, not you, it's not you, Ryan, it's this process is so simple. It's so dialed in. It makes complete sense. Now that I've seen you go through it from start to finish, I completely understand. But there were two questions that people asked. And the reason why I want to bring up these two questions now is as follows. Is that day when I decided to let a few people into my internal company training porthole and record this training, walking people through the entire process, I've decided to let a few more people learn the same process, discover how it works. And the reason why I'm bringing this up to you today is because, and only because, Tellman and I are two guys from New Hampshire. I decided to make this same opportunity available today to you that I made available that day in that mastermind. And I'd like to invite you to join me walking through the 6-week process so you can apply the survey funnel formula in your business yourself. And I'm going to get to that in just a moment. But before I do, I want to bring up the two questions that people had when they went through this training themselves. And the reason why I want to bring these up is because I want to offer you two gifts today that are going to solve the two biggest problems that people have when they are thinking about this solution. The first problem is this. How do you choose whether or not your market, the project, the product, the business that you're considering doing this in, how do you evaluate it before you get started? You see, what people didn't realize is that the reason why this process has virtually 100% success rate when I apply it is because I spend a lot of time evaluating an opportunity before I decide to pursue it. And I've been able to dial in this evaluation process down to a science, something that has come to be known as my green light project checklist. And basically what this is a red light, yellow light, green light system that I use to evaluate, am I going to pursue a project or am I going to hit the brakes on it? It's a process to identify, for example, if the market you're considering entering is worth entering or not. In that case, I have something called my 5 market must-haves. And the way the green light project checklist works on this one parameter, by the way, there are 11 different parameters, is I look at, does this market have at least 4 out of the 5 things that I'm looking for in the market? And each of these 5 things has a variable as well as a specific quantity. So for example, I'm looking for a certain number of competitors, what I call the competitive sweet spot, in every single market. And if a market has too much competition, it's not something I'm going to pursue. If it has too little competition, it's also not something I'm going to pursue. It has to fit in the sweet spot. The green light project checklist is basically handing you on a silver platter what's taken me 10 years to realize. 10 years to come together in what really makes a slam dunk opportunity. And I'm going to give this to you for free, my entire methodology, something that I sell, have sold, which is currently not on the market, for $200, absolutely free. That's the first thing. The second big question that people asked when they went through this training was, Ryan, I realize that your process is brilliant. I can totally follow the process, but here's the thing. I also realize that the language that you use the way you write copy is brilliant. And I haven't invested a lot of time myself to become a world-class copywriter. What would you recommend for me? Well, I want to give you a gift that I consider to be even more special than my Greenlight project checklist. And that is a program that I put together with arguably the most well-recognized and knowledgeable video copywriter in the world, a man by the name of John Benson. You see, in 2010, John Benson and I got together to produce a course called VSL Fast Track, how to write landing page, same visit sale, upsell video sales letters, even if you're not yet a world-class copywriter. Now, this course sold hundreds of copies out of the gate. I mean, it was an avalanche of sales. People were eating this up. And then one day, John came to me and said, Ryan, this course is something we're vastly underselling. What he meant by that is that we're undercharging for what we're giving away. And he said, Ryan, here's what I've decided to do. I've decided that I'm going to go back and I want to create a course, a high-end course. I'm going to charge $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and I want to repackage it and sell this at a much higher price point for what it's worth. But I've only got one problem. The problem is there's no way that I can sell this information for $5,000 if there's a course on the market that we're selling the same information for $500. So he said, we have to take this course off the market. And we went back and forth, and I was super disappointed because it was so successful. People were absolutely loving it, but I also understood where he was coming from, and to be perfectly honest, I agreed. We were undercharging for the information. So I said, all right, we'll take it off the market, but I only ask for this one condition. I'll never sell this course ever again. However, I want to reserve the right to be able to give this away as a bonus for any client who invests in any one of my other training programs. And he agreed. And the reason why I bring this up is because, as you'll see in the examples I gave you, and as you'll see in the program that you're about to get access to, that writing copy in the videos and the use of video is one of the key components. And being able to write persuasively in a way that inspires people to action is critical. This program here gives you the formula to do that, to the point that it's literally mad libs straightforward. Plug and play a few specific constructions, add the name of your market, your product, and you walk away with proven, compelling, persuasive copy structures. Now, just to give you a sense for the value in this gift that I'm about to give you alone, you can listen to Jonathan, who says he was waiting to dive into the survey training, and because of that, jumped into the VSL thing and was able to create a funnel that's converting at 250% better than his old video. And that's just in this free gift that you're about to get access to alone. So this brings us to the $64,000 question. What's on everybody's mind, what I know you're thinking about right now, which is, all right, what the heck is this going to cost? What is it going to cost to get access to this 6-week system that walks through how to apply this survey funnel formula that's been responsible for generating 52,000 email subscribers today using surveys and quizzes, that's going to show you, show me, how to apply this in your business? What is the investment going to be? Well, I'm going to tell you what the investment's going to be right now, and I'm going to tell you the reason why. You can get access to my entire survey funnel training, my secret family recipe, as well as my Greenlight project checklist, which is going to teach you exactly how to choose your next market, as well as the VSL Fast Track program that I previously sold hundreds and hundreds of copies for $497. You can get access to everything right now today for one payment of $197. And you can do so by visiting the website surveyfunnelformula.com/Knudson, Knudson. Now, by the way, Megan, would you do me a favor and post that link in the chat because I can't access the web right now. Would someone actually just go to that URL and do me a favor and click on it to make sure that it's working? I want to make sure that the link is working up. Awesome, awesome. Someone click on that and just tell me, hey, Ryan, the link is working. It's going to the right place. I want to make sure that we didn't. Tellman has a great, very original name, and I want to make sure I didn't accidentally mistype it when I was creating this link. Can you just tell me, does it work? And anybody, just let me know that the link is working before we continue. Awesome, 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 awesome. Sweet. Okay. I want to answer a question that if you're not, and by the way, I didn't mention this, but I'm going to be taking the rest of the time to answer questions, and I've got a few things that I want to show you that I think you are going to be very interested here in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to answer a question that you, if you're not asking yourself now, you should be asking yourself, which is, why is Ryan, who supposedly makes millions of dollars a year using this formula, basically giving it away for next to nothing? What's the catch? Well, there are two reasons why I'm doing this. The first is something I talked about in the book, and the second is a ruthless profit motive, okay? First reason. I talked about this in the book, but the reason why I decided to actually give away my formula in the first place comes down to 3 years ago. I actually got very sick. I got so sick that and I didn't realize it at the time, but it came to a head when I applied for life insurance, and I was actually denied. I applied for life insurance. Woman came to my house, did an exam, thought nothing of it, went to a marketing conference, came back 2 weeks later, and had a letter from the life insurance company waiting on my desk, and I opened the letter up, and the letter said denied. And I called up my life insurance agent and said, hey, there must be some mistake. The letter says denied. I must have gotten someone else's letter. And the life insurance agent, his name is Chris, said, Ryan, I actually have the letter in front of me as well. And in addition to the letter, I actually have your lab results from that woman who came to your house to draw blood and get your results. And I think you need to sit down. And he said, listen, I'm not a doctor, but I really think you should see a doctor immediately. Your lab results are off the charts. And he proceeded to read to me what these lab results were. And he said, I'll send you an email with a copy of them here in just a moment, but let me give them to you now so you can write them down. And then I made the big mistake, by the way, you don't want to make this mistake, of going to Google and searching for what the lab results meant. And the results that came back were kidney failure, renal system shutdown, pancreatic cancer, which is a death sentence, by the way, incurable, and a whole host of other things. And so I had the panic button that went off that day. And later that day, when my wife, after we put our 6-month-old son to bed, came to me and said, Ryan, all set on life insurance, kind of like tick the box, everything good. I said, well, not exactly, and we need to talk. So I had a conversation with my wife. She broke down in tears. We looked at the results together, looked them up online, and she started freaking out. And she decided to call the hospital and get an appointment with the doctor first thing in the morning. So it was late at night when this happened. And we got an appointment first thing in the morning the next day. Went to go see the doctor, explained to him what had happened, and he said, okay, well, let's get some lab results done to corroborate the results that you got, to see if they're legit, to see if they're real. Maybe you did get someone else's lab results. You don't look that unhealthy. Got the lab results done, and we're waiting in the waiting room, and I'm on my cell phone. My wife's on her cell phone. We're nervously waiting for the results to come. And the doctor walks out, and when he comes out the second time, it's like he saw a ghost. His face was white, and he walks up to me and grabs me by the shoulders and says, Ryan, you should be in a coma right now. I don't know how you're standing there. And we need to get you to the emergency room right now. And they rushed me to the emergency room and very quickly then put me into ICU on life support. And I had lost a tremendous amount of weight, and my lab results were off the charts. Turns out that I had blood in my urine, my organs were shutting down, and I basically should have been in a coma. I had fallen into a state that's known as DKA, which is diabetic ketoacidosis. And the reason why I had lost all this weight is because my body could no longer metabolize food, could not actually consume food, and it had been eating my muscle tissue for a period of months. And my sugar levels in my blood were elevated to the point where it was near fatal. So I spent 10 days in the ICU, and I was away from my 6-month-old son. My wife couldn't come visit me. My son certainly couldn't visit me, and I was isolated. And I was by myself, and I asked myself those questions that you asked yourself when you wonder, is this it? And I asked myself, well, what am I going to do with my life? If I get a second chance and I come out of here, what am I going to do? And I had made a lot of money, but it didn't really matter. And for me, it came down to making an impact and leaving a legacy. And the answer to me was clear. The answer was I had to get this formula, this business formula that I had seen transform business after business, transform my life, going from having $500 in the bank to making more than $5 million a year, get this in as many people's hands as possible. And I realized that if I was going to do this, that I couldn't just work with a few high-level clients paying me hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this for them every single year. I had to get this into the hands of masses, and I did not want money to be the thing that would hold people back. That's the first reason that you see this price. The second reason is simple, and this is the ruthless profit motive, and I want to be fully transparent up front with you. I know, based on historical numbers, that for every 100 people that I get this in the hands of, there will be 1 or 2 people, 1 or 2 of you right now who are on this call, who are going to reach out to me privately and say, Ryan, this is absolutely brilliant, but I'm one of these people that's in the category of having more money than time. And I would rather just pay your company. Now, seeing this course, seeing your process, seeing behind the curtain how you actually do this, I would just rather pay the master himself $50,000 plus royalties for the rest of your life to implement this for me. And all it takes is just 1 or 2 people who are in that category for this to make sense. Now, I realize, based on the time that we've spent together, that you probably don't quite know yet, is this for you? Will this even work for your business? Is this something that even makes sense for where you're at? So here's what I want to do. I want to give you an opportunity to go through the entire first 4 weeks of the course yourself before you even have to decide if you want to keep it. And the way this works is simple. When you click on that link and take advantage of this special opportunity today, and by the way, this course is not available for sale to the public. If you go to surveyfunnelformula.com, there's no way to buy this course. This is literally the only place right now to get access to this course is through this link that you have right here, and only for a very limited time, and I'll explain that in just a moment. But when you take advantage of this right here today, you get access to an unconditional 30-day 100% money-back guarantee, which means that you can check out everything in the course for the first 4 weeks yourself. You can download everything to your hard drive. You can take lots of notes. You can print everything out. You can watch all the videos. You can go through the entire process. And if you like what you see and it works for you, then keep it. And if you decide that it's not for you for any reason or no reason at all you need to do is just send a 1-line email to my assistant, in this case, Megan. Send an email to Megan and say, hey, Megan, the course is not right for me, and I'll send you a refund. Simple. It's really simple as that. $197 is not important to me. What's important to me is that you are taking action and using this. What's important to me is that this is the start of hopefully a long-term relationship in business. I'm hoping that you, just like my private clients, will be working together for the next 10 years in some way. I don't know what that way is right now, but I want this to be the first start of our relationship. Okay? Now, You all might also be wondering, okay, well, this is great, Ryan. You've gotten amazing results. I totally believe you. I totally believe that you've done this. But what about regular people? What about people who have just gone through your course? What kind of results have they gotten? What kind of results am I going to get? Well, let me go through some examples and actual results that people are getting right now today going through the course that you have the opportunity to get access to. So you can look at Will, who says, this is the best and most comprehensive use of surveying and segmenting I've ever seen. Or Darren, excuse me, I have to take a sip of water. Darren, who's saying, I use the layering technique he mentioned. I'm now getting a 53% opt-in rate from Facebook traffic after they self-qualify through a 3-question survey. Or you can look at Stefano, who says, I just decided to try this out. It's my first survey funnel. Here are my first results. For a small try, I invested 1,000 euros on Facebook ads and got 1,200 euros back on the front end. This is with no upsells, and it's not even optimized. In other words, for every dollar, for every euro that he's putting into this, he's getting $1.20 back. So question, if you had a little machine in your office right now, or wherever you're sitting, if you had a little machine where you could pull a wallet out of your purse or out of your dollar out of your wallet or dollar out of your purse, you could put that dollar into this little machine, and every time that you put a dollar in, $1.20 came out, how many dollars would you put into the machine? The answer is as many as you can get your hands on as quickly as possible. More. Ronald says, the project that Ryan and I started working on together in terms of this survey funnel case study has represented well over $500,000 in his business. Antonio writes, I purchased the course a while back and I haven't even gone through the whole thing yet. And already my clients have gotten great results. In fact, one client has gotten over 700 leads, which has turned over 6 figures in coaching clients. Darren writes, our survey funnel, and I'm quoting him, so don't shoot the messenger here, is really half-assed at this point, and it's still producing a 40% lift in total monthly revenue year over year. Brandon writes that by building a survey funnel and following Ryan's model, I was able to go from a 70% ROI, so losing money, to making a 150% ROI making money. Corey writes, since buying Ryan's course, I landed a cold traffic funnel client for $20,000 and 10% of funnel earnings plus a % of media spend. And Sean writes, by following the formula and pathways Ryan's laid out, I secured a $84,000 contract from this client to start this year. And folks like Ryan Dice have said that if paid traffic is what you're after, then you're wise to study Ryan Levesque. His stuff is built for scale. And if you consider the customers and clients that are using this, many names that you might remember, that you might know, including Ryan Dice, Perry Marshall, Brian Kurtz, Keith Baxter, Andre Chaperone, Ben Settle, Jack Bourne, Harlan Kilstein, Danny Inney, Kurt Malley, Tellman mentioned, Keith Krantz, Kevin Rogers, who's John Carlton's arguably #1 protege, Michael Lovitch and Buck Risby, Steve Gray, Erica Rocha, who's the #1 digital marketer in Brazil, runs a massive 8-figure business, Charles Kirkland, Greg Wells, Todd Brown, Russell Brunson, Dagan Smith, Jonathan Mizell, Derek Johansson, Ryan Lee, and our very own Tellman, as well as big companies that you might recognize, including Fortune 100 and Inc. 500 companies. And remember the fact that this is the same approach that business owners are paying $5,000 a month to get direct access to me for just a few minutes of my time, a coaching program that is filled and has been filled for over 18 months with a wait list of over 100 people. And if you consider the results that people are getting using this formula, literally tripled their profit this career. This is audio results, people in their own words talking about the financial impact that this is having in their life, in their business. Survey funnel strategy alone increased front-end conversion by 100%, increased sales by $15,000 per week, literally hundreds of business owners sharing their actual results. And we consider that you're going to get access to everything I just mentioned, the Greenlight Project Checklist bonus, the VSL Fast Track bonus, which are worth over $600, plus all 6 weeks of the entire survey funnel training that you see here, plus the opportunity to check out the first 4 weeks of the program 100% risk-free before you even decide if you want to keep it for just one payment today of $197, this is a bargain for the right person. So with that being said, I'm going to take a sip of water, and I'm going to go to the chat to answer as many questions as I can in the time that we have in the next 15 minutes. And Tellman, if there's anything that you want to add at this point, I'm not sure if you're still with us. I know you mentioned you might have had to drop off. If you're still here, if there's anything you want to say.
I'm here loud and clear. Yep.
All right, my man. I'll let you say a few words while I take a sip of water and give my throat 5 seconds of rest.
Yeah, so guys, this is an incredible method, whether you're starting your first online business, going after one of your passions and one of your tribes, or what, and you've been thinking about it for a long time, but you've been kind of sitting back waiting to get started. This is a really good methodology that's a little bit different than just giving away something for free, which is something that I do all the time. And when I started running Ryan's process a few weeks ago, we're midway through the process right now, and it's been really interesting. Lots of very unexpected things have come out of this, and so you guys are going to actually start seeing some really interesting programs that we're going to be releasing that were totally different than what I had on my agenda. So this is good stuff, whether you have a list already or whether you're building a new one. Really good stuff, and I would encourage you. Honestly, Ryan, when we were talking, I pinged you on Facebook. I was like, why are we going to make this thing so inexpensive? I was really quite genuinely shocked, and it would be very foolish not to pick it up. It's an amazing process.
I appreciate that, Tellman, and there's a part of me in my life, at my stage in my business, it's more important for me to get this in as many people's hands as possible, and at the same time make an investment in themselves, because I know that people will value the advice they get based on how much they pay for it. If someone charges $1 million and you are taking someone's advice, you're going to listen to that advice. If a homeless man on the side of the street offers you free advice, you're going to value based on what you paid for that advice. And so I've priced it in such a way that I want to make this accessible to as many people as possible, and at the same time for people to place real value on it so that they value it for what it is. But you're right, I've gotten a lot of pressure from people who are saying, Ryan, you should be charging $2,000 or $3,000 for this course. But I wanted to price it in such a way, Tellman, that it's a no-brainer to the extent that even if you only go through the first weekly module, the first week's module, and go through that deep dive process, that you're going to get more than a 10x return on your investment just by focusing on that one step alone, even if you never get around to the rest of the process, right? And so for most people, there are that piece is a no-brainer. So I want to take a moment just to answer a few questions that have come through in the few short minutes that we have, and then we're going to wrap here in just a moment. And one of the questions that's come through is, do you need any special software or technology to implement this? And that's a great question. And the answer is the course itself is technology agnostic. And the reason for that is the 23 different markets that I'm in and all the different businesses that I work with, every single one uses a different technology platform. We've got some businesses that are built on WordPress. We've got some businesses that use ClickFunnels, other businesses that use services like Unbounce, 10-minute funnels, and even lead pages. Now, as far as the email side of things, people have asked, well, can you use this if you're using Aweber, Infusionsoft, Entreport? The answer is yes. I've got businesses myself that run on each of those platforms. The memory business that I gave you an example runs on Infusionsoft. My marketing business runs on Aweber. The example that I gave in the training presentation where we ran the Do You Hate Me survey and the pivot survey, that was an example where we used Aweber. Now, the list goes on. I've got a gardening business that we use GetResponse. And the reason why I do this in all these different platforms is I like to diversify my risk. So it does not matter what technology you're using. You're going to see how this process can be used for you. Okay. Now, people have asked, what about the survey software itself? Well, I give examples of the different types of survey software you can use in the course, ranging from free options like Google Forms, which is 100% free, through third-party options like Survey Gizmo, all the way through my own software that my team and I have developed to implement this entire process from start to finish, something called Survey Funnel Software. And I give you all three options depending on what's most appropriate for your budget. Right? So those are some of the options that we give there. Another question has been, oh, what's the deadline? What's the deadline to take advantage of the opportunity? The deadline is this, now write this down, it's this Sunday at 11:59 Pacific time. This Sunday at 11:59 Pacific time. And the reason for that is simple. We like to bring everybody in at the same time so that we can get everybody started at the same time, and so that we kick things off no later than this Monday. Now, this is recorded training. It's recorded training, but you have to understand you're going to be getting access to my company's internal training portal. So we're going to be setting you up just like as if you were an employee in my company. Just like if you're one of the members on my team, we're going to set you up with a username, with an ID, and you're going to get access to my internal company training portal. And so the reason why I bring that up is that this isn't some big fancy schmancy, product that you're going to have a bunch of bells and whistles on. You're going to see this just as if you were peering behind the curtain and you are a member of my team and you're getting access to my proprietary training. Every new employee that I bring into my company, they go through the same training that you are about to get access to yourself. Okay? I want to make that clear because you're going to be getting an email from one of my assistants who's going to be setting you up with your username and password. That'll usually come if you order right now today. It'll come before the end of the day. If you order at 2 o'clock in the morning, it'll come the next business day. Okay, so there's a great reason to take advantage of this right now while you've got the screen open and before you forget about it. Because here's the thing, if you write in on Monday after the deadline has passed, I'm going to say I'm sorry, but we've already gotten kicked off and you've missed the boat. And I know how painful it is because I've done this before myself where I make a note to myself that I'm going to do something later and I miss the deadline and I say, oh crap, I wish I could go back in time. I wish I could go back in time when I had it right in front of me while I was thinking about it and it was on the top of my mind. So for that reason, if this is something that you're thinking about now, my recommendation is don't put this off. Just go ahead and take advantage of this. Click on the link. Go to that link that you see on the screen, surveyfunnel.com/KNUDSON, and take advantage of this while you're thinking about it before it slips your mind. Another question that's come through is what's the format of the course? And that's a great question. So it's a multi-modality course. So this training is a combination of video training where you're seeing me walk you through exactly how to implement each step, step by step. You also get access to cheat sheets. So if you're the type of person that likes to just cut to the chase and jump through kind of like a recipe book, follow step 1, step 2, step 3, you've got cheat sheets, and these are fully downloadable, printable, etc. You get access to the actual transcripts in areas where I walk through some word-for-word copy. There's some additional help videos on the actual technical aspects of setting things up, like analyzing the survey. So if you're not the type of person that likes to do this yourself and you want to outsource this to a team member, a contractor, you've got the step-by-step technical implementation of everything so you can pass it on to them, like analyzing the survey results. So it's designed to be multi-modality. By the way, the videos themselves are broken down into nice bite-sized chunks. So instead of having to go through like a 2-hour video training, you can just jump right to the part that you're about to execute. Simple 3 to 5 minute video segments you can go through, execute that piece, hit the pause button, go back to whatever it is that you're doing, and then come back and implement it step by step. So really taking a lot of time, and as you can imagine, being the survey guy, surveying people who have gone through this training in the past and integrating their suggestions, questions, and concerns in the process itself. Looking forward to doing this. Awesome. Carl, look forward to seeing you. How long do you have access to the training? Paul, you have access to this training for life. So you'll have access to this training for it's not available for a limited time, so you'll go in. And so that's the other thing, too. If you're thinking about, hey, this sounds really interesting, but the timing isn't quite right, my recommendation is that you take advantage of this now because this is not something that will be made available forever. It's not something that I'm going to be offering forever, but if you do get access to this now and you decide you're going to implement it a month from now or 6 months from now, you can take your time. You can do it at whatever pace makes sense. Will you be able to repeat the lessons in future weeks? Absolutely. It's a great question, and you'll have the full opportunity to do this down the road. Rosemary, look forward to seeing you in here as well. Awesome to see there's so many people who are saying, yeah, I'm in. This is great. Super excited to have you on board. Barry, thanks for asking me about my health. My health is actually great. So I came out of that experience basically discovering at the age of 30 at the time that I became a type 1 diabetic. Now, type 1 diabetes is also known as juvenile diabetes. And the reason why it's called that is because 99% of people who find out that they're type 1 diabetic find out when they're a kid. And so to find out as an adult, I'm not the first person in history, but it is so rare, especially for someone who is in my unique circumstances. So my health now is actually good. I, believe it or not, this morning just saw my endocrinologist, whom I see every 3 months to check in and make sure everything's going okay. I did a substantial amount of damage to my body, unfortunately. Walked out of the hospital with a life expectancy that was a bit shorter than when I walked into the hospital. But the important thing is not how much time you've got left, but what you do with the time that you've got. And for me, I came out of that hospital like a bullet out of a gun, and I've been in 5th gear ever since, and I'm not stopping. And I've got some big goals, and I want to make an impact in a profound way, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here today, and one of the reasons why I'm super thankful to you, Tellman, for the opportunity to share this and get this and introduce this to your tribe, to the people who look to you for leadership, and everybody who took the time to be with us here on this call. And given the fact that we're down to the waning minutes, I think we're going to, one last thing before we forget. I made a promise, and I want to fulfill on that promise, and that is this here, the flowchart. I promised at the beginning that if you wanted a copy of the flowchart, how to get access to it. So here's what we've done, and forgive me because we did this really quickly. If you go to surveyfunnelformula.com/free, F-R-E-E, you'll see a simple little form asking for your name and email. If you fill that out, we will send you by email a copy of the flowchart so that you can print it up, study it. I've even had people who have sent me photographs that they went to Kinko's, had it printed up full color and laminated and put it up on their wall. You can do a digital version, however you'd like. This will give you a good roadmap for success and following the high-level process. And this, coupled with the course itself, is going to give you everything you need to execute this process and go through it step by step. So with that being said, given that our time is at a close, I'm going to wrap here. I want to say thank you, Tellman, for the opportunity to share this. I want to say thank you, as in you who is listening to this and part of this and participating in this right now. I want to say thank you for you because I know if you're like me, time is precious. Trust me, I think about it every single day. I've got, my son is now 3.5 years old, and I have another son who is 9 months old, and I think about how every moment is precious. And the fact that you took this time today to spend it with me is not something that I take for granted. And I hope that you walked away with a tremendous amount of value, tremendous amount of immediately implementable ideas that you can use in your business, and that I hope that you decide to join me in this journey, taking the next step to work with me directly and go deeper in this process so you can get the results that I know you are capable of. So with that being said, I'll say thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Ryan. That was absolutely awesome. Much appreciated.
Awesome. Thank you, Tellman, my man. Super appreciate it. Look forward to connecting again soon, and have a great rest of your day. Take care, and good night.
Over now. Bye, guys.